Happy spooky season, buds. It's time for another astrology forecast. That's spooky. I want to read your astrology chart. Yeesh. I love spooky season. I mean, I love spooky stuff all year round. I'm a big horror movie nerd, and it gets really fun when everybody else is kind of on board and in the spooky mood. So I do love spooky season. I love everybody being along for the ride and enjoying the vibes. And I wanted to do something fun for the season, and I played around with doing like one of those lists of like here's the movies that you would like based on your astrology sign, or like here's I don't know, here's the movie you are based on your astrology sign. I don't know. And I was going to make it like very sincere and very authentic, and then I was like, I don't know, I just don't think that's me. The lists are out there. They're great. I don't know that I have anything to add to them. I actually kind of really struggle with narrowing things down like that and not devolving into stereotypes. You know Albert's gonna Al around here, so that's the clackety. Yeah, the lists are out there. They're great. I struggle to not fall back on all of the stereotypes, and then I was like, maybe I'll lean into that and do something not sincere. I'll do something that's kind of jokey, kind of just for entertainment. So that's what this will be. And the stereotypes that we do find in sun sign astrology, I mean, they're coming from somewhere, right? Like they are rooted in some level of truth. So it's not like we should just throw the stereotypes out the window. And hell, I mean, a lot of people find their way to, the broader understanding of astrology through the sun sign astrology and all the stereotypes. It's like how we relate and how it first resonates for a lot of people. So like, it's not a problem. But anyways, my list is going to be the kinds of tropes that we would be based on our rising sign, sun sign, based on our signs. That felt like it was more in line with the sort of sun sign stereotypes, the horror tropes that we find in many of our favorite horror films. But like, please know, this is a joke. This is for entertainment. This is not, I mean, I'm going to rip on a couple of signs. Probably all of the signs might get their little fifis hurt just a little bit, but like, it's fine. We should be able to make fun of ourselves, and especially within stereotypes and tropes. Let's just have fun. Let's have a chuckle. Let's be entertained. Also, one or two of these might be gory. I'm probably going to mention violence. I mean, we're talking about horror film tropes here. It is going to be silly, but like if gore and horror is not your thing, I'll leave a timestamp for where you can skip ahead, because I am going to get a little more sincere and authentic about a couple of things later on in the video. Okay, Aries, you're up first, as you love to be. And I kind of see you as the jock. You're the invincible one. You are the one making the bold and oftentimes very silly decisions right in the face of danger. You are the tough guy, the tough gal, the tough human. Why? Because nobody could possibly be stronger or quicker than you, Aries. I mean, you hear a chainsaw rev, you crack your knuckles, and you're ready to bring your fists to a chainsaw fight. Yeah. I mean, this brash confidence is definitely probably helpful somewhere, but not here. You're going to die. Taurus, you're the stoner. You probably saw all of the red flags. You saw the creepy doll in the corner. You noticed the inconsistencies from the killer who's been posing as your friend this whole time. And you even noticed the trail of blood that you thought, maybe even wished for a hot second, might be some sort of delicious jelly. But you also knew that you just smoked a blunt and a fresh, delicious pizza was on its way. So like, why ruin the vibes by running away? You're going to die. Gemini, the one who can't stop talking long enough to survive. Look, you're connecting all of the dots and explaining every theory, and you're bringing up a lot of great points that are definitely going to help your friends or your torture mates or whoever you're with. It's going to help them survive to a certain extent. But you also are probably very loudly narrating your entire escape route, or you're like live on social media while you're doing so, and it's going to get you caught. You're brilliant, but you're doomed, Gemini. Cancer, my sweet little Cancer, my little sweetheart. If they don't get Aries first for all that impulsive and brash decision making, they're going to get you, sweetie. Okay, they're going to get you first. I'm sorry you're being too emotional about all of this. You need to calm down. There is no time to sit around and like have everybody's feelings be heard on this one. And let's be honest, you just couldn't help but go back to save that friend who is so clearly dead, Cancer. They're gone. But I mean, that's very kind, but it's also what's going to get you got. You're the heart of the group, but right now, we need guts. You're going to die. Leo, you probably think you're going to be the final girl, the final guy, the final survivor. I get it. But the thing is, you're the killer that's doing it for all of the fame. Yeah, you're kind of a Jill Roberts, I'm sorry to say, a Richie Kirsch type. You want the recognition, you want the guts, you want the glory. And, you think you'd make the perfect killer. Well, actually, you think you'd probably make the perfect final girl that did all the killing, but is able to make it look like she didn't. Either way, it's the role of a lifetime. It's probably not going to last that long. And I mean, if you have to kill all of your friends along the way, I mean, that's the price of stardom, baby, right? But the price is also jail. You're definitely going to get caught. Virgo, look, I hate this. I hate this for you. I didn't hate it as much for Leo, but I hate this for you. But you are the actual killer. Where Leo fails, you kind of clean up the mess. Because let's face it, you're really good at planning. You probably have a to-do list that says, get costume, get disguise, or like get materials to DIY my disguise, research, weapons. I don't know, research the best blood cleaners. Like, you are just so good at organizing and following through. You make shit happen. You've got escape routes planned out. You've got alibis, rolling around in your head. You see the potential flaws in the plan and you are like 16 steps ahead. If something goes sideways, you've got plans B through Z. You are still probably going to get caught up in all of your perfectionism and the hubris of it all. And you're going to want to give that fourth quarter monologue that reveals way too much. It was going so well, too. Libra, the killer's accomplice. Look, we all know you really struggle with decision making. So when the killer friend approached you and said, we're going to do murders together, you were like, well, I mean, this is bad. Like, maybe it's not as bad as being the ringleader, though. And, murders aren't good, but being a bad friend is also not good. Maybe I can convince my killer friend, to stop what they're doing. Maybe I can tell them to take it easy. Maybe I can change them. And you were still weighing the pros and cons of all of this when you assisted with the first murder. Hello, Aries or Cancer. And I hate to break it to you, babe, but Leo, Virgo, whoever you're helping, they're going to kill you. Scorpio. Okay, this one was tough because, again, I was like, killer, or are we just the suspect that's a red herring? Both of those positions put us into a place where people aren't trusting us, and that's going to be really difficult for us. That's going to get under our skin. If we're the killer, we're going to have to be so cool, calm, and collected that we are almost like deeply psychotic, in the act of making it seem like everybody can trust us. If we're the red herring, we're going to be freaking out because it's like, excuse me, bitch, you don't trust me? Do you want to talk about January 16th, 2021, when you did A, B, C, and yet here we are. You are still running by my side. I'm still trusting you to run away from the real killer. Okay? Now, here's the thing. We will probably figure out the mystery. We'll probably figure out all of the ins and outs of the mystery if we're not the killer, but we probably won't trust anybody to share the details with them. And we die. Spoiler alert, if you haven't figured it out yet, everybody here dies. There's no final girl. Sagittarius. I'm not going to lie. You're probably going to be a lot of people's favorite character in whatever this, bizarre film is. You just know how to diffuse the tension and lighten the mood and see the bright side. You know how to do that so well. And that's probably going to annoy a lot of the folks that you are in the danger with, because they're like, hello, there's a killer on the loose, my guy. But you're like, hey, this is just another epic quest. This is just another opportunity to try something new. Let's broaden our horizons, you guys. Like, when are we going to get another chance to outrun this guy with the chainsaw, or at least to see if we can outrun this guy with the chainsaw? I mean, you can't buy these kinds of experiences, maybe on Airbnb, but anyways, you'll probably make it pretty far, and you'll die in the pursuit of adventure, but you will die. Capricorn, the skeptic. You're the one that thinks that there's a reasonable explanation for everything that's going on. The door that just opened on its own, a breeze. That supposed ghost in the corner, a trick of the light. the killer who is repeatedly stabbing your friend over and over while looking you in the eyes and calling you by your name and saying, you're next, Capricorn. An elaborate prank. Sorry, you die too. Aquarius, you're the harbinger. You know that guy or girl or whoever at the gas station that's always like, oh, the Rodney house. You don't want to go there. Nobody's been there since the murders. Yeah, you're that person. Or if this is the sequel, you're the one who made it through the original and you have seen some shit. You've survived through a lot. You know a lot. You have a lot of information that people should probably be taking in and listening to. But Aquarius, you act so weird and you isolate yourself to the point where it makes you unapproachable and a little bit scary. And you're probably even going to be seen as the red herring. You're going to get yourself killed. Pisces, you're the sacrifice. And what I mean is you're going to give it all up for the group, for someone special, or for humanity itself. But the thing is, it's going to be for a group of people or a certain someone or hell, even a humanity that just doesn't deserve it, or it's going to all go down in a way that is completely avoidable. Like you're going to take a bullet for a loved one when you both had time to get out of the way. You are going to try to show compassion to the killer, and then all they're going to show you is your insides on a knife. The worst part, you dreamt it would happen. You saw this. You knew what was coming, and you still died. Okay, so hopefully you, I don't know, chuckled at that, or maybe you just rolled your eyes because it was so cheesy and ridiculous. But either way, thanks for watching. It was fun. It was fun to put together. Let me know in the comments if your trope suited your sign. And listen for your sun, moon, and rising and see what happens. But let's get serious for just a few moments, because doing all this, putting all of this together made me think about like where we might find fear in the birth chart. This has kind of been an obsession of mine for a little while, actually. Like, I want to explore why certain people like certain types of horror films, why certain people don't like horror at all, or how we deal with like psychological trauma and all of that kind of stuff. I find it really fascinating. So when we look for fear in the birth chart, there are a couple of things that we can look at. The first maybe would be the 8th house, although this is not in any kind of order. This is just the order in which I wrote it for whatever reason. But first on my list is the 8th house. This is where topics like death and taxes are found. It is the sharing of resources and the ways in which we are eternally intertwined with others, the way that we are indebted to each other, and the debt that we must repay by returning our physical bodies to the earth from whence they came. So, just like a pretty light house all around. But death, this is where death lives in the chart. And if you think about it, it is where the sun begins to set. So it's kind of like the sun coming down from the sky and going to its resting place every night. That's the house where it starts to happen in the actual sky. Then there's the 12th house, which is a place of isolation and solitude and retreat. It can speak to themes of like self-undoing, mental stressors, anxiety. It is the place where we go when we need silence and retreat. Which is great when we choose those things, right? Like if we are actively choosing to give ourselves moments of silence, I think we all need that. But it is also places like prisons and hospitals and spaces of confinement and places where we might feel trapped and, without agency. It's possible you might experience claustrophobia if you have a lot of 12th house stuff. That is kind of purely anecdotal because I myself suffer from a lot of claustrophobia and I have very important placements in the 12th house, and it being this place of restriction and isolation and refinement makes me think there's something going on there. So then we could look to Saturn, which is the planet of death and endings. It's the tough stuff of life. It's the harsh realities, the responsibilities, the obligations, and the weight that all of those things oftentimes carry for us or make us carry, I guess I should say. Saturn can be about the consequences to our actions. It is about structure and boundaries and time and like, do we have enough time? And, how do we manage it all? So our Saturn placement might reveal a fear that we work through for a lifetime, like the fear that takes us kind of a lifetime to confront and take responsibility for and take agency over. And maybe it's like, Saturn cycles take 30 years. So maybe every 30 years we're working through a certain pattern of fears or a certain type of fear, and we come to a maturity around it. But certainly there's something that is lifelong with Saturn. So next we could look at Pluto, and maybe not necessarily our natal Pluto placement, but a Pluto transit, because a Pluto transit tends to bring things to the surface. It tends to unearth things that have been hidden. It's about secrets. It's about what's been obscured, what's in the dark. And like a lot of those things, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously, are deep in the psyche because we don't really want to face them. We don't really want to deal with them. They're maybe a little bit scary. They're maybe kind of vulnerable. They're maybe a little bit raw. Like these are touchy subjects. These are taboo subjects. So they're things that require a lot of vulnerability and a lot of honesty, and that can be really scary. Pluto tends to poke at our tender spots, and that kind of like raw interaction can be really uncomfortable. So then we could look to the nodes, definitely natal placement for this one. Both of the nodes in their own way are going to speak to things that we feel a kind of a lack around. We're not getting enough of something. We're losing out on something. We're missing out on something. Maybe we aren't enough of something, or we fear that we aren't enough in a certain way. These are insecurities in this way. Or maybe we feel like we're going to lose something. It might be where we fear letting go of something because we're very worried that we will never, ever get it back, or we'll never, ever get something quite like that. The nodes are like the symbolic imagery of the nodes are the north node is the head of a dragon and the south node is the tail of a dragon. So even in that symbolism, they're incomplete halves of a whole. They're not like, yeah, they're not whole. So there's that lacking energy. There's that kind of FOMO, like there's something missing. The north node might show us where, like, when we crave something, when we really hunger for something, when we're obsessed, when we can't get enough of something, that's like, why are we so obsessed with that? Like, what is actually missing that makes us obsess over that? The south node is stuff that we have to empty out. We have to cleanse away. But if we're struggling to let go of that, why is that? Okay, this next one, go with me on this, okay? Because I'm going to say Jupiter. And I know Jupiter is typically about good things. It's abundance. It is, meaning and purpose and faith and hope and belief. It's knowledge, right? It's wisdom. But the expansiveness that Jupiter has on offer, the expansiveness that Jupiter allows us to seek, requires that we go outside of our comfort zone. Like, to expand, to grow, we need to try new things. We need to traverse the unknown. That's scary. It requires change. It requires some sense of bravery. It requires like a certain, physical, mental, emotional, bravery to step outside of the things that we know and trust. So maybe it's not the worst kind of fear, but I still think for some people that expansion can be a lot. That's why typically when we have these like big moments of expansion, it's followed by contraction. It's just the inhale, the exhale, or I guess the exhale, the inhale. But yeah, I don't know, maybe. And then finally, again, go with me on this, but the moon, right? Okay. We don't usually talk about the moon. It's not spooky, scary skeletons, right? Like, we're usually talking about the moon in like very warm and fuzzy tones. It is spoken a lot with like a very nurturing vibe because the moon is about nurturing. It's about emotions and feelings and sensitive spots and tender topics and childhood and nourishment and, both physically, not both, but physically, spiritually, mentally, all of that. Nourishment on all kinds of levels. And similar to Pluto, the ooey gooey heart of the matter when it comes to the moon can be very vulnerable, very soft, very easy to bruise. The moon speaks to how we find safety and comfort and protection and belonging. And when those things are threatened, that is scary. When those things are violated, that can bring about fear, right? That can bring about a fear response. And I think the moon can say a lot about what our childhood was like and what needs were met, which ones weren't met, and those needs that maybe weren't met as children, that had an impact on us as a child, follow us through into adulthood and might also speak to where we feel insecure, where we feel a lack, or where we just feel like something is missing. Okay, pals. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully something in this resonated with you. Hopefully, you got something. If you got one thing, that's great. Hopefully you got more. I don't know why I ramble at the end. I never know how to end these videos, but sometimes things just end. Just kidding. I never say this, but I do give astrology readings. So if you're interested in learning more about like where you would find fear in your chart, or other like more joyful topics, I find fear quite interesting and joyful in a way. But anyways, whatever you might want to talk about with your astrology chart, remember, I want to read your astrology chart. So let me. Thank you for watching. I'll be back soon with more astrology insights and other cosmic chit chat. But until then, y'all, I'll catch you in the cosmos. The spooky cosmos.